Are you tired of guessing when it comes to investing? Do you want to understand the true value of a company before you put your hard earned money on the line? Then you are at the right place. Today we are diving deep into the world of fundamental analysis, the powerful tool that separates informed investors from those who simply follow the crowd. We'll break down the key components from financial statements to economic indicators and show you how to use this knowledge to make smarter investment decisions. So buckle up and let's get started. So let's clear out what we are going to learn here. In this video, you will be familiar with the core principles behind each approach, the tools and the techniques used to evaluate the stocks both in fundamental and the technical analysis, then the strengths and the limitations of each method, and finally how you might combine both to form a more holistic investing or trading strategy. By the end of this video, you will know how each style can help you choose when to invest and what to invest in. So without any further ado, let's get started. Now let's begin with fundamental analysis. So what does this mean? In the most basic terms, think of it like checking a car's engine before buying a second-hand car. You'd want to see if the engine is in good shape, if it has a history of problems, or whether it's worth the price that you are paying. So in the world of stocks, this means looking under the company's hood. So basically, you would want to have a company's health checkup done. How is it done? Number one comes the financial reports. Does the company earn money regularly or is it losing money? This comes from reading the documents like income statement, balance sheet and cash flow statements. Then comes industry and economic factors. Is the business in a growing industry, let's say tech, or in a declining one? How is the economy doing overall? Are we in a recession or a boom? The final element would be the management and the reputation. You would want to know, right? If you're putting your money, you would want to know who is running the company and do they make good decisions? Does the company have a strong brand people trust? So these are the areas that you need to study before investing your money. So by studying these areas, you form an idea of what the company is really worth. This is sometimes called its intrinsic value. If a company's stock price is lower than its real worth, a fundamental analyst might say this is undervalued. It's a bargain. But if the price is higher than what the company seems to be worth, they might say it's overvalued. Be very careful of this company. Now the one thing that you would want to ask me is, why do we use fundamental analysis? My simple answer is long-term focus. So if you're planning to hold a stock for years, you want to know if the company's business is strong enough to survive the economic ups and economic downs. Also, deep understanding. Fundamental analysis forces you to truly understand what you're looking and investing in. It's like buying a house after a full inspection rather than just looking at the paint job, right? So that's exactly what fundamental analysis tells you. Now let's have a deeper look at fundamental analysis and the elements involved. The first element that we already talked about is the main document story. So what are these documents, right? First comes the income statement. It shows how much money the company made, basically the revenue, and how much of it spent, that is the costs. So the bottom line is the net profit, money that is left after everything is paid, right? That's the profit part of it. That comes from income statement. Then comes balance sheet. It lists what the company owns, right? Company would have its assets like cash, buildings, equipments, etc. And what it owes, the liabilities, like maybe they have taken loans, they have bills to pay, etc. So the difference between what it owns and what it owes is called the shareholders' equity. Then comes cash flow statement. So it basically tells you where cash is coming from and where it's going. Right? It has operating cash flow, which means money from the main business, like selling your products, your main core business USP. Then it's investing cash flow. So it's the money spent or earned from buying or selling equipment or other investments. And finally, another section is financing cash flow. So the money from issuing shares, taking loans or paying the dividends, that comes under this section. Then the next element is the ratios, right? So one more big thing in fundamental analysis is the ratios that you look at. So the first is price to earning ratio. I will show exactly where to find these ratios and how to calculate these ratios. I'll be giving you a brief hands-on on where to find these statements as well. Coming back to price to earning ratio. So it basically tells you how much investors are willing to pay for each dollar the company earns. A lower P to E ratio might indicate a stock is a bit cheap. A higher PE ratio means that the stock is very expensive. It's in the overbought zone. The second ratio is return on equity, ROE. So it basically tells how good the company is at making the profits from the money shareholders put in. Then comes debt to equity ratio. So it basically compares how much debt the company has to how much value it has on paper. Now, too much debt might be risky, right? You don't want a company to have huge debts and the revenues are lower, right? You always want a debt-free company. Then comes current ratio. If the company suddenly had to pay all its short-term bills, would it have enough short-term resources to cover them, right? So this is also a very, very important ratio when we look at fundamental analysis. The third element to fundamental analysis is the qualitative factors. The first part in it is management quality, right? A great CEO can drive innovation and profits. A poor one can tank the company, and you don't want your investments to go down, right? So a good CEO is always the strength to the company. Then comes brand strength. Does the company have a product that people love and trust? Just like Apple has iPhone, right? Same way, it should drive the motivation for the consumers to buy. Then comes market share. Does it dominate its industry, or is it just one of the tiny player among the giants? So these are the elements, the qualitative factors that you need to look at. So in this entire approach, we talked about something known as intrinsic value. So let me simplify it for you. Imagine you are buying a small local bakery, right? You'd want to know how many loaves it sells, what the profit is, and how likely is it to keep doing well. Then you decide how much you think it's really worth. And that's what fundamental analysts do with big companies. They might use the models like discounted cash flow to guess how much profit the company will make in the future and discount it back to today's value. The difference between the current stock price and your calculated value might be the margin of safety that they follow. So these are the elements to what a fundamental analysis would look like for a company. The approach is simple, that when you're going long term with your investments, the approach is fundamental. So for fundamental analysis, as we discussed, how do you look at the reports, right? The financial statements, where do you find them, right? So you can either go to individual company's website, okay, and you can search for the results, quarterly results and annual reports. You would find them, or you can come to this free tool called Screener, and you can search for any company, let's say Hindustan Unilever, right? So it pops up Hindustan Unilever. If I click on it, you can find the basic analysis of what the stock is about and what are the pros and the cons, and everything would be mentioned over here. The quarterly results would be mentioned, and then you would have the statements, right? For example, P&L statements, income statement, balance sheet, cash flow statements, right? So we discussed operating activity, cash flow from investing and financing activities. So all these statements are over here from 2013 to 2024, right? But this is not the entirety of what I am going to tell you. So you may trust this, you may not trust this. Is final is what the company has submitted to the stock exchanges, right? Be it National Stock Exchange or Bombay Stock Exchange. So here under the quarterly results, you can see something known as a raw PDF, right? So if I click on, let's say, September quarter, okay, if I click on it, it redirects me to the Bombay Stock Exchange website, right? So this is what the HUL, Hindustan Unilever, has submitted to the National Stock Exchange and the Bombay Stock Exchange, right? So in this particular PDF, right, when I talk about fundamental analysis, you read through this, you understand what the management of the company is telling you about their quarter, how it went. Then you would have the statements over here, right? So standalone financial results would be here. you would have, let's say, see, the balance sheet is mentioned over here, the assets and the liabilities that I talked about, everything is mentioned over here in a clear and cut manner, right? Cash flow statement is there. So all the statements and everything about how they are doing their business, how they are running their business, right? What do they think about it? Everything is mentioned in this particular document. So whenever you start with your fundamental analysis, when you are researching about the company, how good the company is, what are the ins and outs of the company, everything you would know from this particular document. So this is how you start with your fundamental analysis, reading the reports, annual reports, quarterly reports, and also you can also look at the other aspects, right? I talked about certain ratios, right? Some of them are mentioned over here: earnings per share, EPS. So there are a lot of ratios that are there, right? So to calculate all the ratios, the numbers and everything you would find in these three statements: profit and loss statement, which is also known as income statement, or balance sheet, or cash flow statement. So all the ratios would be calculated from just these three statements. So everything you need to know about fundamental analysis comes from these financial statements. And that's a wrap on fundamental analysis. By now you have a solid understanding of how to evaluate a company's intrinsic value and make more informed investment choices. Remember, fundamental analysis is a long-term game, so be patient and do your research and always stay informed. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe for more valuable investing insights. And as always, remember that investing involves risk and to do your own research before investing any capital. Thank you for watching.
Investments in securities markets are subject to market risks. Read all the related documents carefully before investing.